Once the adoptive parents gets a hold of that child, and who knows what happens to the kid, of course, in this particular area in the Southwest, this network of criminals files a lawsuit against that person and collects the money. Okay, and then that person who is set up as the adopted parent receives their cut, the networks receive a cut, the judges receive a cut because they're involved in phony lawsuits. This is going on right today. The person who gave me this information, and again, I just received this about 2 weeks ago, went back to the Clinton White House and talked to them about this, contacted the FBI and talked to them about this. Nobody is doing anything about it. Too many high-level people involved. Okay, let's scoot along. By the way, the finder's report, just a minute, let me finish. The finder's report is back there, and I'm going to put it up on the screen for you for documentation about our great CIA. The great CIA is not only involved in kidnapping children, they're the biggest drug dealer in the world. As we know, Iran-Contra. And the CIA is the most evil organization that's ever been established in the history of the world. And the FBI is right along behind them. The FBI is involved too. I'm going to document information on the screen now about the finders. I have been to the FBI half a dozen times and filed a formal complaint, and they have yet to interview me or to even contact me. Okay? And let's start. Oops. Let's talk about, before I go into the finders, let me just throw a few things up here about, no, this is the finder. Reader's Digest, July 1982, 100,000 children are missing every year. We're not talking about runaway teenagers, we're talking about kids that are 2, 3, 4 years old. They just disappear off the street. The great FBI will tell you how many bank robberies occurred last year, how many statutory rapes occurred. They'll tell you about armed robberies and stolen cars. They won't give you figures on the missing children. Here's the finders. That's the great seal of the great CIA. This is your documentation. This has been given to the FBI by me personally. The top says Department of the Treasury, U.S. Customs. This is a case that broke in 1987. And at that time, there was two well-dressed men in a van, Dodge van, that were with 6 children, ages, as you see down here, 2 to 6 and 7 years of age. They were in a park. The kids were shabbily dressed. The men were very well dressed. The men had passports on them. The police went out and talked to them, and the children said that they were en route to Mexico to a smart school. The men refused to talk. The information was, the van had Virginia license plates on it, and the information was sent back to the Washington Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C., and the files were checked there, and they learned that there had been information there about blood rituals that had taken place and possibly a homicide. And by the way, the Metropolitan Police Department obtained a search warrant, and that's where they came up with this information. There was a much more detail on it than what I'm giving you, but this is the report itself. And if you'll notice down here at the bottom, inspection of the premises revealed that organizations in different places in the world were involved in this project. And you see here it says London, Germany, the Bahamas, Japan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Africa, Costa Rica, Europe, and so forth. And there was a Palestinian aspect to it. And here's this kind of interesting. There was a code word called Operation Pentagon, or Break-In Pentagon. Is it on there? I don't see it right now.
Yeah.
It was a code word. Yeah, okay, here it is. The Pentagon break-in. Obviously a code word. So what happened? The customs agent who investigated this was in contact with the Metropolitan Police Department. He went over there for a briefing through the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C. on April the 2nd. And he had been working with the Detective Bradley. And at that time, he was referred to a third person. Probably somebody didn't want his name in his report. And he was advised that all the passport data had been turned over to the State Department for their investigation. The State Department, in turn, advised the Metropolitan Police Department that travel and use of the passports by the holders of the passports was within the law and no action would be taken. This includes travel to Moscow, North Korea, and North Vietnam in the late 1950s and the mid-1970s. Well, it was illegal to travel in those countries in those days. The individual further advised of circumstances which indicated that the investigation into the activities of the finders had become a CIA internal matter. The Metropolitan Police Department report had been classified secret and was not available for results. I was advised that the FBI had withdrawn from the investigation several weeks prior, and that the FBI Foreign Counterintelligence Division, that's Division 5 in headquarters, which handles all counterintelligence and counter-espionage and so forth, informed the Metropolitan Police and Customs that they should not furnish the information to the Washington Field Office, which is the investigative arm of the FBI in that area, not headquarters. No further information will be available, no further action will be taken. That's the finders. That ties into the Nebraska case. John DeCamp has made the statement publicly that the one organization that did more than anybody else to cover up the kidnapping ring, the case in Nebraska, the pedophile ring, the homosexual ring, was the FBI. John DeCamp, who is the attorney on record for these kids, two of these kids, has publicly stated, and it's in his book, the Franklin cover-up, it's on the back there. If you don't have it, I highly recommend it, along with this video. John DeCamp has stated that the one organization that did more to cover up the Nebraska Franklin cover-up situation, cover-up case itself, was the FBI. Here's some headlines out of the Washington Times. You don't see this in the LA Times or the New York Times, by the way. This is June the 30th, 1989. Power broker served drugs, sex at parties, bug for blackmail. Craig Spence, who's identified, I think, in this article, in one, if not this one, the one I'm going to show you in a few minutes, was with the CIA, and his job, along with some other nefarious individuals, was to set up the congressmen, senators, dignitaries for blackmail. There was one FBI agent in Omaha and another one in Chicago, a team of 5, who traveled around the country and did some of their dirty works. There was a restaurant in New York City that was bugged, video and audio, specifically for the purpose of setting up congressmen, dignitaries, senators, etc. Homosexual prostitution probe ensnarls the fissures of Bush and Reagan. Paul Benassi has drawn the living quarters of the inside of the White House. The public is not allowed in that portion of the building. I've been in the White House, but never there. As a matter of fact, I met that great American Henry Kissinger in the White House. And not only that, I met Nancy. And at the time, I didn't know. That's kind of an interesting case. I'm writing 3 books now, so you can read that in my book. But some tapes disappeared out of the FBI headquarters. Transcriptions of some illegal wiretaps is what they were. And I was an inspector at the time, and I was ordered along with 3 other inspectors and our aides to locate those tapes. And they were finally located in the White House. And they'd been given to the White House. And I waited all day for them. And finally my boss says, go over there and wait over there. Don't wait here. I'm getting tired of looking at your face. So I went over there one night late at the White House, went in and found the tapes, talked to Alexander Haig. And as a matter of fact, when I finally had an opportunity to talk to General Haig, I read his rights to him. I'm probably the only person in the history of the country to read the rights to Haig, because he was a suspect. We had files missing, right? So he's a suspect. So I gave him his Miranda rights. And then I talked to him at length, and he said, yeah, I have the tapes here. He says, they're being copied. He didn't say they're being copied. He said, I have the tapes here, and so-and-so over at the headquarters is coming over to pick them up tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Would you like me to give them to you or wait and give them to him? Well, the guy that was coming over the next morning at 9 o'clock outranked me, so what would you have done, right? Give them to the man that's coming over tomorrow at 9 o'clock, which I did. I left. Top Japanese politician linked to Spence. Craig Spence again, ex-CIA. Once he was exposed, he was Arkansated. You know what that is. He committed suicide 6 months after his exposure.